Welcome to Take 5, your 5-minute inspirational message from Solid Rock Drogheda. In several of our recent Take 5s, we've been looking at the Sermon on the Mount, in particular the Beatitudes, where Jesus said, blessed are the peacemakers, for example, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled. And Matthew chapter 5, verse 8, Jesus said this, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. You know, the first time I ever heard a message preached about this, it was one of the most discouraging experiences I ever had. Because the preacher stood up and began saying about how there were certain people who just had this innocence and this purity. Saying about how there were people who had a childlike faith that had held on to that had never got distracted by other things, and that these were the people who would see God. And I'm sat there as a converted alcoholic. I'm sat there as somebody who looked at my own heart and saw how many times I had chased after and got involved in things that were corrosive and degrading. And by the time that guy had finished preaching, I felt totally deflated, and I thought there's no hope for somebody like me. And that's not what purity means at all. Purity is actually saying that we're single-minded, that we're set on one thing. It's not some happy accident that we just happen to be born with this lovely pure nature where other people were born nasty. But rather it is a process. It's a process that's called refining. Because whenever you dig precious metal out of the ground, it often comes up in the form of an ore. And it needs to be refined. The precious metal is there, but it's mixed with other metals. And it has to be heated. And when it's heated, the other metals that are mixed in with it rise to the top like a scum on this molten metal and get skimmed off. And then sometimes that process needs to take place a number of times until all of the impurities are removed. And that's what being pure in heart is talking about. It's not saying, oh, look at him, isn't he just a lovely, sweet kind of person? It's just the way he was made, God bless him. No. It's saying that we allow ourselves to be transformed. And the things that happen in our lives, and sometimes God allows things to happen in our lives that are not what we would have chosen. Sometimes they are difficult situations. And yet here's the amazing thing that I've noticed is that some people go through difficult situations and they come out the other side of it unchanged. There's no refining. They come out the other side of the difficulty still every bit as bitter and angry as they went in. I remember years ago, whenever we lost our youngest daughter, and I remember Janice and I making each other a promise that we knew people who had been through similar tragedies and had ended up getting angry at the rest of the world and almost like angry at other people because they didn't understand what they had gone through and because other people had had life easier, and resentful. And we said we don't want to be like that. We don't want this horrible situation we're finding ourselves in and going through. Something we would never have chosen, but we don't want it to make us bitter. We want it to make us better. And I do believe that the Lord used it to make us better, to refine us, to center us upon Him, that He would be our goal, that we would not be double-minded or double-hearted, but we would be single-minded, set on the Lord. And that's what it means to be pure in heart. It means that your heart is not divided. It means that your heart is set on God. Does that mean that you don't care for other people, that somehow it's all, oh, I love Jesus and to hell with everybody else? No, not, of course not. Because our love for other people becomes part of our love for God. There's no conflict. Because when I love God with a pure heart, I love my wife better. than I did before. I love my daughter better than I did before. I love the church that I serve better than I did before. When our hearts are divided, we're all over the place, and we actually don't show the true love to people that we're supposed to show. But when our heart is set on God, when we are pure in heart, when we're the real deal, not the mixed alloy and jumble of different bits, then God really can enable us to love others in a new way. And you know, I don't know about you, but I want to be like Jesus. I'm sure many of you want to be like Jesus. You want your love to burn like his love. You want his love, the way that he was just, people, they didn't agree with what he said often, but they recognized that he loved them. I want to love like that. And I know for that to happen, I've got to allow myself to be refined, and I've got to be pure in heart, set on that one thing. I pray that today God will help you and help me to focus on what really matters, so we may be refined and we may be pure in heart. May God help us to do that today, and join us again on Monday for another Take 5, your 5-minute inspirational message from Solid Rock Drogheda.